A very good morning to all my dear friends. I am Prashant Mauni and I welcome all of you to StudyIQ. Dear friends, one great cause of failure is lack of concentration. Now, one thing is that everyone talks about that you should concentrate, you should pay attention and things like that. We have been hearing this sort of words from our very early childhood, isn't it? In the school and in different places, even at home as well, we are being asked to pay attention and focus and things like that. But the trouble is that no one is teaching us how to concentrate. Now the thing is, concentrate is something that most of the time what I have seen that students are in a sort of imaginary sort of concentration. Many times we hear things about some famous personalities, and in their stories we find that they can concentrate for many hours, but that's fine. It could be some people with extra powers, but what we can do is, one thing is that accept that concentration at this stage, it's not going to last for hours and hours, right? You may spend 5-10 minutes and after that you'd be distracted. All you have to do is just pay attention that you are focusing, or you are paying attention, or you are trying to concentrate. That's it. Don't struggle with yourself, and gradually, with the help of practice, everything will be all right. Now, dear friends, please allow me to introduce all of you to the wonderful offer that is going on at present. Till 21st October, up to 35% is off on various different courses that are provided by StudyIQ. So if you haven't got it yet, I would recommend all of you to get it as soon as possible. If you have any further queries, all you have to do is give us a call on this number, or don't forget to check out studyiq.com website. Over that, on our website, you will find chat support as well. That will help you a lot. Now, this editorial is about Somalia. Yesterday, we were talking about Somalia, isn't it? And we know that there is a big terrorist attack that took place in Somalia. And this is Somalia here. As you can see, this is a country, and here you can see Indian Ocean. Here is Arabian Ocean, and you know it very well. India is somewhere here, isn't it? So it is not far from India, and you have Indian Ocean here, so you can say that it is a country that is having a border with Indian Ocean. It is on the eastern side of Africa, and I have a question for you as well regarding this area. So I'm not giving you more details regarding this thing, but if we zoom the map of Somalia, then the thing is, a couple of days ago, President Ramnath Kovind was here in Ethiopia and Djibouti, isn't it? And now this thing is in news. Somalia, it was in news a couple of days ago as well, because of some piracy sort of things. There was a merchant vessel that was the pirates tried to take over it, but Indian Navy's Marcos Marine Commandos were successful in sorting out these pirates. Anyways, so this is a big sort of one of the deadliest terrorist attack in Somalia, and it has sadly killed 300 people and many are injured. Right, this is Mogadishu, basically is the capital, as you can see here. Right, it's a capital of Somalia, and there are other cities as well, bigger cities. Couple of cities are here in the Gulf of Aden. Aden is a city of Yemen, and that's why this area gets the name Gulf of Aden. The other thing is that you can see a couple of rivers here, right? Juba River is here, then Shibel River is here. So it is coming from Ethiopia and then entering this, so it's a sort of both these rivers are transnational rivers. So keep this in mind as well, just in case if you find any sort of question in your prelims examination pertaining to match the following sort of thing, right? Right, so the thing with this Somalia is that this Al-Shabaab, Al-Shabaab is a local terror network or terrorist group in Somalia, and we all know about Al-Qaeda, isn't it? Al-Qaeda is a sort of a bigger group compared to Al-Shabaab. Now, there was a time when Al-Shabaab was not doing that good because it was facing African Union mission in Somalia, that is known as EMISOM. And this EMISOM has different countries in it. Ethiopia is there, then Kenya is there. And you can also see that one more thing that I would like to highlight here is that equator is passing from Somalia, right? Equator is passing from Kenya as well, and Kenya, Ethiopia and Djibouti are the three countries that are sharing border with Somalia. So this Ethiopian forces and Kenyan forces are part of this African Union mission, and USA was providing logistic support. Now the thing is, you can see here that a couple of countries are coming together and fighting this terrorist group, but the bigger worry is that this terrorist groups are nowadays, they are more sort of, you can say they are a global network. They are working like a global company. They are supplying or filling the gaps. If one terrorist group is not having money and ideology and people, etc., then the other one will provide support. And if you observe the terrorist group, right, this sort of groups versus government, then we find that governments are not cooperating with each other when it comes to fighting terrorism, because many countries even today believe that there is a good and there is a difference between good terrorists and bad terrorists. So this is the thing going on, and this is the vacuum that is created by the troubles or conflicts between different governments is providing a sort of, you can say, providing an opportunity for these terrorist groups to fill in the gap and create all these sort of troubles. Now we were talking about that USA was providing all this sort of logistic support, and earlier on it was ruled by, this country was ruled by British, and it is also said that one of the main reasons why British were keen to cover this area, they used to rule over this part of the world because of India. The thing is that you can see here, from here somewhere you have Britain, and so from Britain you can travel all the way to this Red Sea, and then from here, so if you have this area under your control, Egypt was again, this area was under British control as well, so all the trade can be safely done. This was the main reason, it is said. And this issue that is going on in this Somalia is because it has a very sort of clan driven society. Everyone is thinking about their own clan rather than thinking about Somalia as a one nation, and this is one of the reasons why we have sort of a fractured society in Somalia. And there was a spell, there were years where you have like no sort of government, it was all anarchy, there were no rules and regulations, and we can understand this thing that the best example could be that even elections were not able to, like universal adult franchise, that means everyone was not able to vote in election because of this sort of anarchy. And the president at present, the president of Somalia is having a sort of good reputation, positive reputation, so he has to deliver some results and sort out this issue of terrorism. The second editorial is again related with terrorism and terrorists, and you know, Hafiz Said, this picture was yesterday as well in the Hindu, and today I have borrowed it from yesterday's paper. The thing is, you know the profile of this person. For the new listeners, let me tell you that this is the man who was behind the 26/11, right? The Mumbai attack that took place in 2008 in Mumbai. He was the mastermind. He is in fact the mastermind, and Pakistan has decided to withdraw terror charges from this man. So that clearly indicates where Pakistan stands when it comes to dealing with terrorism and terrorist groups like Jaish Muhammad and other groups, whatever the name could be. It doesn't really matter, right? So this mastermind of 2008, at that point of time, he was declared as a sort of in 2008 he was placed under house arrest after United Nations sanctions on his group. And last week the government said it was not going to include charges of terrorism. He is still under house arrest, but you can see that the government is having a soft corner for this terrorist, and Pakistan was being a bit harsh on this man, this Hafiz Said, because USA was not happy with Pakistan. It said that it will stop supply of money and things like that, and because of that Pakistan took a sort of quick decision, and then it applied this sort of terrorist charges and things like that, etc., etc. Now the thing is, The biggest trouble that I see in this thing is that in 2002, right, this Hafiz Saeed was declared as his group was declared as a terrorist group. Now see, from 2002 he was declared by United Nations Security Council, but then as well in 2008 he is conducting a terror act in India. So this indicates that United Nations Security Council, it has 5 members. We know that it is a group of P5 or powerful 5 countries. You have USA, Russia, China, then you have France and UK. But many times we also hear that this UNSC or United Nations in general needs amendment. It should reflect the reality of 21st century, because if you can't control even one person, you are talking about the most powerful countries of the world. And then as well, this person, Hafiz Saeed, is able to conduct this sort of terrorist attack even after his group is being declared as a sort of terror group. This indicates that UNSC is more like a paper tiger. It cannot do anything. It does not have any sort of weight, you can say. And the other thing is, most of the time what happens is the members of this United Nations Security Council, right, you have clearly 2 divisions here as well. Out of these 5 groups, you have 3 countries. They are, generally speaking, they are in one team, and then you have 2 groups, 2 countries that are in one team. You have Russia and China here, and you have UK, France, and United States on this side. So there is a sort of internal clash as well between within this P5, and that is one of the reasons we are not able to achieve that much. And a couple of days ago, or a couple of weeks ago, this Pakistan's foreign minister said that Saeed was a liability, but now we can see that the government has decided to support him, isn't it? The government is basically not running the case, or not providing evidence, or not trying to make this case more stronger in the court. Itself indicates that the government is sort of promoting, or you can say protecting, this person. And it is, of course, no doubt an open challenge, not only for India. I must say it is an open challenge for the whole world, because the way Pakistan is carrying and doing things, it is not paying any sort of heed to global order. Moving on to another item, and this is about economy. And regular listeners, I'm sure you know many things about this thing, why growth is not picking up and things like that, etc., etc. Now this particular article is talking about many things. There are many figures as well given here, but what I have decided is that rather than taking you through all these figures and things like that, I will give you some basic idea of what this is all about. The reason why I've decided to give you basic idea, and of course when I give you basic idea, it does not mean that it is ABCD, right? It is, when I say basic, I mean to say that I will provide you things that will help you develop your capacity and conceptual. You will have basically a sort of conceptual clarity on this article, and with the help of this article we will have a sort of conceptual clarity with the basics of economics. Right, so what this article is talking about, what it is saying is that, among other things, one factor that stands out is the steady and sharp decline in investment rate, isn't it? We are saying that consistently investment rate is going down, and because of this thing we are also saying, it is also believed, and it is true as well, that because of lack of investment there is a sort of slowdown in the economy as well. Now there are basically 2 types of investment. One is done by public, that means it is done by the government. The second one is it is done by a private player. It could be corporate or it could be household. Now just give you one example of corporate. Say for example Tata Group decides that they are going to invest in infrastructure of India, for example, or they are going to invest in they are going to open 20 factories in different states of our country. So if they are going to open 20 factories, if they are investing in, say for example, making new cars, Jaguars or Land Rovers, then many jobs will be created nearby the area where these factories will be located. Apart from that, you know that these 20 factories will need suppliers as well, isn't it? And these suppliers could be from different parts of our country. It is believed, or it is said, that on an average, if you open one factory, then roughly speaking, 200 businesses will get new business, because someone will provide you water, someone will provide you tea, someone will provide you all the mechanical tools and things like that, etc., etc. So you can understand it is said that on an average 200 companies will benefit. And you also know that there is a chain here as well, isn't it? The person who is supplying tea to you, he would be buying tea and sugar from someone else. He would be purchasing milk as well from someone else. So in this way you can understand that private investment can boost economic or you can say the wheel of economy comes into motion, both when investment is coming from private and public sector. Now if it is coming from both sides, then of course it is good, isn't it? But if you have just one side, or you can say if just at present what is happening is private investment is down and the government is trying to invest, it is trying to invest more and more in the economy. Now what happens when government invests too much money? Basically, if you have 100 rupees in your pocket, right, let me give you example here. If you have, say for example, 100 rupees in your pocket and you have many other things to do as well, but now if you are giving away 10 rupees, then again you are investing it, right? You are investing this 10 rupees and you know that it will come back after there are going to be benefits, but after 5 years this 10 rupees will become, say for example, 50, which is good, not bad. But you have to forget this 10 rupees for 5 years completely. Then you have to spend, then you are going to spend some 20 rupees somewhere else. The benefits will come after 20 years, say for example, and it would be worth of 200 rupees. You think that the deal is good, but again, so you can see here that you'll be having less money in your pocket, isn't it? Because you have invested it. Same thing happens with the government as well. And that is the reason why we say there is a sort of fiscal deficit. I will explain you what fiscal deficit is all about. Let's see what this point has to say first. Like, policy initiative must be directed towards raising private investment. Now, how to raise, or what is basically policy initiatives, or what are policy initiatives favorable for private investment? Very quickly, of course, when you have stability, when you have political stability, if you know that the government is going to stay there in power for a couple of years or next 5 years or 10 years, then you know that there won't be any sort of change in policy. The other thing is that government will have a sort of or you will provide a sort of clear picture of tax, right? You are not going to suddenly change the rate of tax, because we know that nowadays companies are competing in global environment. So if you increase, say for example, 1% of tax, and if by increasing 1%, if the total final product of that company increases by, say for example, $1, right, then it may be not that competitive compared to China. So every company, every businessman would like to have a clear picture. They want stability, right? This is the main thing. This is one of the main thing. Then how your tax structure is, and infrastructure and things like that impacts as well, right? So the solution to current slowdown in growth: reviving private investment. Now you can understand that the more private investment we have, the more better it is for economy. The other thing is recapitalizing banks. We know the non-performing asset issue. Banks are not having that much money because the money is blocked, so they are not able to provide loans at cheaper rate. Again, not cheaper rate means more expense, or it would be rise in the overall product or service. The MRP, or you can say that the final product cost will go up. And the speedy completion of stalled projects. All the projects that are stalled, they are going to be adding more expense. The other thing is that if you can start the project, if you can revive the stalled projects, that means again many people will come back in business. So here he is also talking about, this author is talking about fiscal deficit. Now let me tell you what fiscal deficit is all about. Don't worry about this sort of words, right? It is very simple if you break them down. Now fiscal deficit takes place when revenue, that means you can say, roughly speaking, I'm going to use a very you can say layman's language that everyone can understand. So revenue, right? Revenue means your incoming money, right? When your incoming, say for example, when it is down, or you are not getting that much as you should, or you are expecting, when you're getting less money is coming in, you can say that there is a fall in revenue. But at the same time, when you are spending money, or you can say capital expenditure, capital you can understand here, right? Capital, you are investing somewhere, so that's why you are calling it a capital. So capital expenditure is going up, right? So say for example you are getting 50 rupees is incoming, right? Incoming is 50 rupees, but your capital expenditure, I'm just giving you a rough example, is 60 rupees, right? So you can clearly say that you are in minus 10. So you can say that you are in a sort of fiscal deficit. Now the other thing is that how you can sort it out, or what are the ways to ensure that you are not going too much in red. So the government will issue bonds, right? It will issue bonds. That means you will buy the bonds, and you know that because these bonds are issued by the government, you will get some interest on it, no doubt, but it is secure as well. So many people prefer this sort of government bonds. Now you may think that it is a good idea whenever the government is having, say for example, minus 10, then it can issue rupees 10 bond and it will get this money. But remember, it has to pay interest on this thing as well. Now interest is a sort of expense, isn't it? The second thing is you can print more currency. Now this as well is a good idea, isn't it? Okay, you just print currency, get some more currency factories, give a green signal to RBI to print as much as they can, 24/7, make money. But that does not help, because then you will have too much money in the market, right? And too much money means a thing that is of, say for example, you have few products in the market and you have a huge amount of money. That means it will increase inflation. First, the thing, if you are having 200 rupees in your pocket, and if you are going there to buy something of 1 rupees and the person is charging you say for example 50 paisa extra, then you won't bother about it, isn't it? You will say that's fine, don't worry, I have 200 rupees, or I have 20,000 rupees in my pocket, so I don't care about 50 paisa. So in this way the prices of the product will go up. The market will observe that people are having money, so inflation will take place. And then the other way is you can raise taxes. If you you know that the one of the most supply of revenue for the government is taxes. Now the thing is, if you increase taxes for filling this gap of minus 10, then you know that all of us won't be happy, isn't it? Everyone say that tax going up is not going to be beneficial, and there would be protest and things like that. So government cannot do that thing as well. Of course it can raise, but you cannot have a sort of drastic rise in taxes. Then you can reduce expenditure. This could be one way, isn't it? You can reduce your expenditure. But the thing is, government employees, for example, want to be happy. They want a rise in salary after a couple of years, and if you are not giving any sort of rise, say for example to defense personnel or government people or other people, then there would be a sort of unhappiness within this group as well. So this is how fiscal deficit. And there is also one more thing called revenue deficit. Now let me tell you what revenue deficit is all about. Now revenue deficit is basically you are expecting some sort of money that will come by the end of the month, or you are expecting that I will get this much amount of money by this point of time, and if you are not getting that much money, then you can say that it is a sort of revenue deficit. Now let me give you a small example that can help you to understand this thing. Say for example you are expecting rupees 100, right, will come to you by the end of the month, and then you know that by the end of the month your total expenditure would be rupees 75. So you can say that the net revenue, or by the end of the month, you are having rupees 25 at your hand. So now you set a target that every month I should have 25 rupees in my pocket or in your bank, whatever. So next month what happens is that the business is a bit slow, so it is not doing that much good, so you are just getting 90 rupees in your hand. So you decide that you are going to cut down expenses as well. So you cut down your expenses. So you say for example, rather than spending 75, now you are spending just 70 rupees, and after you are having sort of 20 in your hand, isn't it? Now because you got 90 and you have spent 70. So you have 20 rupees in your pocket, but your target was to have 25 rupees, right? But so you can say that you are 5 rupees short of your target, and this is what we call a sort of revenue deficit, a mismatch in expected revenue and actual revenue. That's what you call revenue deficit. So I hope this is clear as well. Now this article is talking about that we should not go for too much of fiscal deficit, and this is not going to help us, because in the past as well, too much of fiscal deficit has not worked for India, and it can create a bit more trouble for India rather than helping the economy. So we should be careful about this thing. That's what this article is talking about, and it is providing you some sort of examples, or it is providing you some data on this thing. But I think that you don't have to remember the data. It's as far as you are the conceptual clarity is there. That's all that matters. Moving on to another item, dear friends. This one is lessons from ROC case. Now we know that since for the longest time the parents of ROC were in jail, and they were going through all the trouble and things like that. We have talked about this thing yesterday. So the things that we can learn here is that the trial court should understand that one cannot go by presumptions and assumptions. Everything has to be technical when it comes to court. You cannot say that I think, or we believe this is the thing, or this is that. No, everything should be based on evidence, right? Evidence is the king when it comes to any sort of court cases. The other thing is that there is too much pressure on CBI and other agencies to find out the things, and one thing that the author or the writer R.K. Raghavan, he himself is a former CBI director. So we have discussed about this thing, that if you get any sort of articles from civil servants, then we should pay some attention to it, because many a times we find very good items which we can use for our understanding and for mains answer writing as well. So he's saying that there will always be gaps, right? In practical life there will always be gaps, so there is no point of putting too much pressure on investigator. Yes, but if someone is trying to suppress the fact, then that is a sort of you can say a crime. But if there is a gaps in investigation, then that cannot be a reason of putting too much pressure or punishing someone. The other thing is that the mistakes conducted by UP police, we know that the scene of crime was not cordoned. Most of the people were allowed to go there. So most of the forensic evidence are lost, and this sort of things, whenever we find if there is any sort of crime, then nowadays we find there is a demand of CBI inquiry all the time. This has happened because when it comes to policing in our country, right, police have lost trust. This is the biggest deficit, you can say. This is the biggest loss for our nation, that we have lost trust in police. And the other thing is that when you talk about training of police, you have some very sort of entry level, or you can say very sort of beginner level investigation training. I know many policemen, right, and they are working in different levels in our country, but there are very few who sincerely take an interest in this investigation, right? Because investigation is too much pressure, too much work. You have to keep patience, and it takes ages as well many a times, and you have to answer, then you have political pressure, things like that. So most of the policemen, they prefer law and order job, and law and order job is more about interacting with public, and it is also a place where unfortunately many of policemen go there to make money, right? So this is the thing, corruption is possible when you are controlling people, etc. So this is a biggest flaw that we have in our system. Police are not able to do a sort of thorough investigation, and because of this thing we find this sort of cases going on. But the biggest thing, even CBI has done this inquiry, etc., etc., we have still not found who is the main person behind these murders. Out of UNESCO, now UNESCO, USA has stepped out. It has said that it is going to quit UNESCO. It has officially declared itself this decision that it is going to quit UNESCO. Of course, it will take 1 year for USA to formally step out of UNESCO. But it all started with this West Asia, the things going on in this part of the world. This is Israel here, this country that you can see in gray, and this is Palestine. Yeah, Palestine has two parts. This one is your Gaza Strip, and this is your this part is known as West Bank. So yes, I think I'm not making a mistake, am I? No, right. So this is the main core part here, and this was a sort of rebel part, but now they are saying that they are okay to follow this central government, etc., etc. Now there is a city here called Hermon, and it's all about Hebron, and it's all about Hebron. What happens, why this USA has decided to step out of the UNESCO is basically in 2011 UNESCO designated this Hebron city as a sort of World Heritage spot. It has Al-Aqsa Mosque, and the interesting thing about Israel is that, or this part of the world, is that it has important religious places for three Semitic religion, right? You find Jews here. Israel is a country of Jews, right? Then you have a place here, religious place, that is important for Christians, right? And then you have a holy place for Al-Aqsa Mosque is important for Islam, or you can say Muslims. And because of this thing, we find lots of politics and troubles going on over here. And when UNESCO decided to include this Palestine as its 195th member, the problem is that Palestine is not a complete member of United Nations, and UNESCO has decided to, you know that it is part of United Nations, so it has when you take Palestine as your member, then it is going to create trouble. The other thing is that Israel is not recognizing Palestine. It is saying that this is not your part, etc. So there is a issue going on between these two countries for the longest period of time, and Israel is an ally of USA. And during his election campaign, President Trump said that he's going to support Palestine and things like that, but now he has changed, and this sort of things are going on. And this is not the first time that USA has stepped out of UNESCO. Ronald Reagan, he was a president of USA, and his administration as well walked out of the body. The main thing here is that it is the USA who is providing nearly quarter of UNESCO's annual budget, right? Because it is providing this much amount of money, it can throw its weight on this on UNESCO. Then a dangerous proportion. Now this is about, there was recently Mohan Bhagwat, who is chief of RSS, he said that the legal system should be based on the ethos of society. Now this article is arguing basically on this statement, but what I have took out from this thing is basically things that are important for your understanding, rather than getting into the argument of what he or she has said, etc., etc., which is not going to be useful for your examination or your understanding. It is better to focus on the things that are going to be helpful to you. Now I'm going to quickly provide you some quick points here. See, amendments, right? Constitutional amendments are good because they are good only when, or you can say they are good because it will help the constitution to be more in tune with the necessity of present moment or the future time, isn't it? So amendments are good. The second thing is that this is a very famous case, Keshav Nand Bharti, 1973. In this case, Supreme Court clearly stated, the 13-bench constitutional bench, right? It included 13 judges, and it clearly stated that basic structure of the constitution cannot be altered at all. And in this article, there is a sort of there are a few groups who are saying that we need new constitution, things like that. But we have to understand when a country would need a constitution. It is when we are getting independence from colonial power, when we are having a sort of partition, or when there is a merger of country, or if there is a sort of revolution. At present, there is nothing like that going on in our country. The other thing is that Western countries are mentioned here because many of our leaders, right, they went to Western countries. We know Mahatma Gandhi and Patel and Subhash Chandra Bose, and there are many other leaders as well who went to UK and other parts of the world too. Ambedkarji, they went out to study, and it was that time when they realized that liberty and individualism was celebrated in these countries, so we need to celebrate this. These were the ideas that were, of course, these things were born in European country, in France, you may say, but it is not something that we should not apply. Anything that is going on around the world that is best practices, then of course we need to apply that thing, isn't it? And in India, we say that Vasudeva Kutumbakam. That means the whole world is my family. So there is no sort of there is no shame, isn't it? There is no sort of trouble if we can borrow some best practices from the other part of the world. So that's what it is all about, and it is also talking about fundamental rights and fundamental duties. Many times we say that there should be only duties. There should not be first do your duties, then talk about the right. It does not work like that way. Rights, you have to give the rights, and you can expect people to, of course, you may persuade them to fulfill their duties as well, but as a country, as a constitution, has to provide some rights. That's everything regarding this thing. Now coming to news items, and Narendra Modi, he was in Gujarat, and over there he was he attacked Congress or opposition. He said that we dare you, if you can talk about development, let's discuss things regarding development and things like that. It is all about politics. The elections are going to hit Himachal and Gujarat, so this is, but regarding GST, he said that government is trying its level best to sort out things, and hopefully in near future everything will be all right. India has commissioned INS Kiltan. This is INS Kiltan. The good thing about, or the special thing about this INS Kiltan is that it is indigenously built anti-submarine warfare stealth corvette. This is one of the main reasons why you should remember the name of this INS Kiltan. They can ask you about which is the first indigenously built anti-submarine warfare stealth corvette. So keep this in mind. And with this, we also understand that India is slowly heading towards becoming a sort of independent, right, or becoming a power in defense. We are producing more, and we want to produce more, because we are importing. We used to import a lot. At present as well, we are importing huge amount of our supplies from other countries, which is not good for any country. When it comes to war, many times we find that they may stop supply as well, so this is not a healthy thing. So Make in India will also get promotion when we are making more and more things in our country. Food processing may see 10 billion investment. We need huge food processing. We need to promote this thing, because we are wasting, or too much of food production or produced food items are lost because of we are not able to process these things. It is going to create jobs, and you know one scheme as well, Sampada, which we have talked about. So Sampada is a scheme designed to promote food processing. Himachal Pradesh is going for election, and this is small stages here. See, first you get notification, then you have to file nomination, then the filing will take place. There would be a deadline of filing nomination, then scrutiny of nomination will take place, then you will have voting, and after voting you will have counting. So these are the steps for many of the beginners who have just started preparation. This is a good thing for you to understand how things work. Inflation, right? Inflation is basically general rise in prices, and the wholesale inflation is getting it got bit down, which is a good thing. And regarding nuclear deal, USA has European Union, we know that USA has said that it is not going to recertify it. We talked about it yesterday, and European Union has said that Iran is following all the rules and regulations, so there is no point of imposing sanctions on them. With this, dear friends, I have a couple of questions for you here. Please help yourself with it, and do not forget to get the maximum out of this 35%, up to 35% that is available on different courses. With this, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you have subscribed, turn the notification bell on. You can do a big favor on me by sharing this lecture to those students who still don't know about what we are discussing here. It is you guys, you are regular listeners, you are the brand ambassador of this thing. It is not me, it is you guys. So it is if you share with this things with other people as well, then I believe that it will help them a lot. If you have learned something, give us your like, pass your comments and your answers. Keep your city green and clean. With this, dear friends, I end this discussion. I'll see you all soon. Till then, enjoy your studies. Take care. Jai Hind.